Hello everybody, welcome. I hope you guys are having a great day. Thank you for clicking on the video, and welcome to 10 things I wish I knew before my first PC build. I learned so much with that PC build. I made so many mistakes, so hopefully this will help you if you're building one for the first time or you're just watching it for the memes. Whatever is the case, hope you enjoy the video. Before I start, I just want to remind you guys that I'm streaming on Twitch, so the link is in the description below. Go follow me over there. All right, let's get started. Okay, number one is flash the BIOS if necessary. So make sure on your motherboard site that your processor is compatible with whatever BIOS is pre-installed onto your motherboard. And if it's not, before you put the CPU or any components into the motherboard, only plug in the power supply unit, flash the BIOS if your motherboard has this capability. If your motherboard does not, you're gonna need to have another processor and you're gonna have to install the compatible BIOS before installing the other one. So if you're upgrading processors, you can install it and then switch it. But for new builds, you're gonna have to flash it or make sure that it's compatible right out of the box. I wish I knew this because I made the mistake of not doing it. I installed everything and then I had to take everything apart and it was a mess and it was horrible. If you guys want to see that horrible experience, I will link my PC build video in the description and in one of those cards that pop up somewhere on top of the screen. Number two is thermal paste application. Now, I know this is a controversial subject, to say the least. Everybody is an expert in thermal paste application, but I watched all of the videos. I watched GamerNexus benchmark video on thermal paste, and everything said that it was irrelevant how you applied it, as long as you applied enough of it. The pea size in the blob in the middle, rice size blob in the middle, spreading it across the entire IHS. So I bought Thermal Grizzly thermal paste, the Cryonaut one, and in the instruction manual I got 3 grams. In the instruction manual it literally specified that you had to spread it across the entire IHS. So I did what they said, even though I was planning on doing the small blob, and it ended up being a mistake. It was too much. I had to end up buying a new one, and then I bought the exact same paste for 1 gram, and in the 1 gram it said to do the little blob in the middle. So it was very weird, and yeah, so in this specific case, following the manufacturer's instruction was not the best thing. Also, obviously, I'm not an expert. It could have been applied better. I made a lot of mistakes. Again, watch the video if you want to hear about those mistakes or see them. But yes, so thermal paste application, my advice, just go with a blob in the middle. Rice size, pea size, whatever size, just a blob, right? That's my advice. Number 3, if you're installing an AIO, mount the AIO before you put the motherboard in the case. This was a nightmare for me. I installed everything and then I did the AIO after I had already installed the motherboard into the case, and it was so much harder than it would have been if I installed it before and then just put it in and put the radiator while it was already installed. So my advice would be mount the cooler first, then put the motherboard in and then put the radiator while it's already mounted, because this leads me to my next point, which is number 4, practice mounting the cooler onto the processor. In my specific case with the Corsair cooler that I got, it just had a very complicated way of doing it. It had a couple of hooks that you had to then turn, and it kind of required coordination, and if you did it too much on one side, it would separate. So my advice is whichever one you have, practice before applying the thermal paste. Before doing anything, do a couple of practice runs, and once you get good at putting it on, then you do everything else. Just become good at doing it before you put yourself in a position where you're going to get stressed out and mess everything up. So yeah, that would be number 4. Number 5, get a magnetic screwdriver. I thought it was not necessary. I was like, nah, I don't need it. I'll just be careful. I dropped so many screws. Getting them out when you're already, like for example, the NVMe drives, you're trying to take the screw out, it's always going to fall, and then getting it is very complicated. You're just trying to get your fingers. I have big hands, but you're trying to get your fingers around the components to pick up a tiny little screw, and then it falls again. A magnetic tip screwdriver is just a lifesaver, and I wish I would have known this before. I would have definitely gotten one. They're not very expensive, and you can just use them forever. Number 6 is plan your cable management. I did not plan it. I just plugged everything in, and then I figured I'd manage it at the end, and it was a mess. And if I would have done it from the beginning, I would have been able to route things and organize things properly from the beginning. But learning from my mistakes, next time I build a PC, I'm paying a lot of attention to what wires go together and where they're going through, because it was a nightmare. I couldn't even get the case to close. And it would have been really easy if I was paying attention to this specific thing. But it's easy to get distracted with other things when you're trying to, you know, plug everything and make everything work, that you're not thinking about the cables too much. At least I wasn't. So this is my advice. Okay, number 7 is a big one. Read the manuals, especially the motherboard's manuals. I think that you should read, if you're not going to read the entire manual for the motherboard, at least read for each specific component you're putting in, even if it's obvious. You're going to put in the RAM, read the RAM specifications. If you're going to put in the NVMe drives, read the specifications. You're going to connect your SATA drives, read the specifications. Anything, read the specifications before doing it. I learn from my mistakes. In my motherboard, if you install 3 NVMe drives, the third slot, which is, I don't know, they labeled by a letter. Let's say slot C. If slot C is on, it disables 2 SATA ports. So I finished building everything, and then a couple of my hard drives weren't being read. And once I went to the manual, I saw that those ports were specifically stated as the ones that would not work if a third NVMe drive was put in. So I had to open everything up again. I had to go again, unmanage a little bit my cable management, and switch the SATA ports that are not labeled on the motherboard, but they're labeled on the manual. So go into the manual, read it as much as you can. If you're not going to read the whole thing, because I mean, who is going to read for every specific thing you're doing? Read before you install. Number 8 is plan your RGB before you start plugging things in. In my specific case, for example, I have a Corsair things. I have Silverstone component, a fan, and I have Cooler Master. So I have 3 different things that could potentially use 3 different controllers. So when I started building, I didn't know what to plug in where. Now, in this specific case, Corsair is only compatible with Corsair, and Cooler Master and the other fan are either compatible. Either you use it directly with the controller that comes with the case, or you plug it into the motherboard and use the motherboard's control, which would be RGB Fusion, to use it. So in this specific case, I had to do all the front fans that are Cooler Master directly to the motherboard, and also the Silverstone fan, which is my exhaust, into the motherboard, and then the 2 fans that are on the radiator and the pump head and the RAM are controlled by Corsair's controller. But these things, like, just plan them out before you start with a build. I never thought much of this. I thought I'd just plug everything in and it would work, but apparently there's a lot of little nuances to RGB. And if you can, which I know it's not ideal always, but if you can, just try to get them all from the same person, same manufacturer, and that way you can just have everything synced perfectly. All right, number 9 is activate the XMP profile. This way you will get your RAM to run at the frequency it's supposed to be running. In my specific case, I get 3600 megahertz RAM, and it's running like, I don't know, much slower, and I didn't know why. I'm like, what's going on with this RAM? Well, you have to go into the motherboard and activate XMP, an XMP profile, specifically right now for my AMD processor with this specific RAM. But again, do some research on your RAM and on your processor. And the 10th one, which is a big one, is don't freak out. There's always going to be a solution, right? I know a lot of times, and this happened to me, you feel like it's the end of the world, you messed everything up, it's not posting, you did something wrong, you feel like you broke something. There's always a solution. Pieces can be replaced, software can be updated, and there's always a solution. Don't freak out, don't let it get to you. You are probably going to succeed and find a way to finish your build. Because even if, I mean, I did it, okay? And I felt like I messed everything up. And my computer's running perfectly, it's beautiful, and I love it. So, you can do it. Everybody can do it. So yeah, just stay positive and do some research. Don't force yourself to keep going if you're tired. You know, just relax and, you know, stay positive. That's all. That's the last one, basically, because there's always a solution. All right, so that'll be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions or anything you wanna say about the video, or any questions about PC builds or stuff, again, I'm not an expert. I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I might have some information that's useful for you, so just let me know. All right, please leave a like if you like the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Wow, I look weird shaved. Oh my God.